Hello and welcome to the Addicts Miami Dolphins podcast, brought to you in part by Manscaped. But before we get into introducing anybody, there's only one way to start the show after a win. Brian, please let him hear it.
Miami has the Dolphins, the greatest football team. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. 'Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins #1. Yes, we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins #1.
Bring us home, that banjo. But I really feel like the banjo is what brings that song to life. That I don't even know. I know I asked this a couple episodes ago. Does anybody have any idea who actually recorded that song? Because we can find the name of the songwriter. I think he's like a bank teller or something somewhere up north, but can't find the artist who actually recorded it. Anyways,
he recorded it for every team in the 70s. Like, it was the same for the Houston Oilers. It was same for just about every team out there. I think the one guy made a mint just doing that song for everyone.
Are we the only ones that kept ours from back then? Is that what happened? I'm just curious. Either way, welcome to the Addicts Miami Dolphins podcast, hosted by me, the legendary Savak, and of course, my co-host from No Coast, the man, the myth, the mustache, Mr. Brian Byrne. But of course, today we are joined by a very special guest, Hollywood of the Joe Rose Show with Zach Krantz. Hollywood, how you doing, man?
Guys, I'm good. Thank you for having me on today. Pumped up to hear that song, man, and finally get to see a little bit of Tua action out there today. It was long overdue to get to finally see what he could do.
Oh, couldn't agree more, which I guess leads into the broader question. How'd you feel about that game and the overall performance of the team?
Well, the team is one thing. The offense and the defense, I mean, man, you couldn't be on different sides of the spectrum with that. I thought today the defense was just incredible. And listen, a major tip of the cap to that defensive unit and the special teams for showing up today in a game where you knew Tua was probably going to look. I actually thought he'd look a little better than he did, to be honest with you. But I knew you knew going into this game that they were going to have to step up. Defense, special teams are going to have to play a really solid game if the Dolphins wanted to have any chance to win this game. And man, did the defense ever rise to the occasion? The way that they got pressure on Goff just right off the bat. I mean, they were in his face. They were knocking him around. They were deflecting passes at the line. I just, again, a lot of credit to the defense out there today, and special teams certainly didn't hurt either. Jakeem Grant getting it done on that aspect of the game as well.
Absolutely. Special shout out to our special teams coordinator, Danny Crossman, doing a hell of a job this season. But that defense really was the story of the day, if you ask me. Of course, 4 turnovers, and Van Ginkel with the 78-yard fumble return for a touchdown. I mean, wow, these guys were really getting to work. But Brian, tell me, what were you seeing out there, and what was your reflection of it?
Yeah, on defense, I mean, we took it to him. Goff is going to be seeing stars. There was a lot of talk from the national media coming in about how, Tua was being set up to fail going against such a great defense. And that storyline got flipped on its side and reversed. And it looks like we were feeling sorry for Jared Goff in that first half. I mean, the dude was hit on just about every play. We only sacked him 2 times, but that doesn't tell the story, I mean, he was beaten up. The offense could not get going until we kind of took the foot off the gas there. Man, and everybody needs to learn the name Emmanuel Ogbah. 6 sacks in 7 games. Just a star in the making on that D-line, Him and Lawson, the other free agent, got it done today, both with sacks, both with caused fumbles. And, Van Ginkel's touchdown, I got a text from a friend. Who is Van Ginkel? I was like, learn the name, baby, because you're going to be hearing it more. That defense, we talked about this going into the game, that the defense made it possible for making this move to Tua because they are playing so good. It's been a different team since Byron Jones has came back. And, the defense is setting the tone. And, every week it's just getting better and better and better. And you can't say more about the defense today than what they did to, this isn't the Jets. They didn't shut out the New York Jets. This is a really good offense with, all pros at multiple positions. So just wow is, I guess, all I can finish up with.
Of course, not to mention, their head coach was the wonderkind himself, Sean McVay, who, of course, apparently a lot of people forgot Brian Flores played a part in shutting them down in the Super Bowl. But I do love what you brought up there. The storyline going into the game was, is Tua prepared to go against this defensive line and Aaron Donald? But the real question was Jared Goff ready for Miami's defensive line? Because the answer was unequivocally no, he was not. And it was quite a sight to see. I know we had talked about this in the pregame show. We expected this kind of performance. This is exactly what they needed to do to contain him and to get that win. It was very nice to see. That was incredible. So, of course, Flores outcoaches McVay for the second game in a row, following up on that 13-3 Super Bowl victory when he was with the Pats. Now, he called a great game and had the Rams offense scratching their heads. And we also have to note, for the first time in Flores' tenure with the Dolphins, they are above 500, now 4-3, and in second place in the AFC East. Brian, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on this coaching staff, not only Flores, but defensive coordinator Josh Boyer?
Yeah, you got to start to think that we found our guy, right? Being completely outmatched at the onset of games, in the Gase era and the Philbin era. It's not the storyline anymore. We came in there with the better with the better game plan all around. We could jump on the offensive game plan and throw stones at it, but we really don't know what the offensive game plan was because we got up so quick and so by so much. We put handcuffs on just like we did in the Jet game. We could probably throw stones on it, but that defensive game plan was just phenomenal. He trusted his corners. He kept Goff in the running game contained in the pocket, and it took over and it told the story of the game. But I definitely think that's more the story than anything is the Miami Dolphins coaching staff outcoached the LA Rams coaching staff. And man, that's a good thing to hear as a Dolphin fan, because that has not been the case in a very long time being a Miami Dolphin fan.
Couldn't agree more. Hollywood, what were your takeaways?
Well, I think what Brian said was interesting about, how they kind of changed a little bit. The game plan obviously switches when, you make some of the plays that you did. I mean, you go up 21-7 right on the Jakeem Grant punt return. And, look, all of a sudden things certainly change from an offensive standpoint. I mean, you want to win the game. I just think the big difference with this Brian Flores coach team is they don't seem to make the horrible mistakes that we've seen in years past, right? I mean, they don't seem to make these really bad boneheaded plays that are game-changing type of plays. This team seems to be more disciplined. They just seem to understand the moments better. And I just think they seem to take the, kind of personality and culture of this coaching staff. And it feels, with that team, when you're in that building, when you're around the team, it feels like there's been a culture change. And we talk about culture a lot down here in Miami, but that was something that the Dolphins needed to do, right? They needed to change the culture in that building from the last handful of coaching staffs. And, it's more than about just finding a quarterback. To me, it's about establishing a culture and, going out into games like this and not making plays to self-destruct and cost you the game. And Miami played this game well. They really did. They went up big enough where you didn't have to put Tua in a spot where he was going to fail in this game, or in a situation where he's going to have to make, too many plays. In which, when you do that, that's when you can see a rookie quarterback start to make big mistakes. I just think they managed the game really well. And, listen, I don't know what they thought going into this game. I assume that they didn't think they'd be up 21-7. What was it, midway through the second quarter? So you just adapt. And I just, this coaching staff does a really good job of adapting and, again, just not shooting themselves in the foot and doing, everything that they can to put themselves in the best position to win. And I just love that about this coaching staff. And I love the discipline that they bring to the team.
See, and I love that you said that twice, because that was my biggest thing, discipline. Because I loved it because when we played the Jets, you saw that. You saw the difference between these two teams and how they were prepared. And our Adam Gase led squad, we always had penalty flags flying in, and they always seem to kill us in those crucial moments. And I love that we don't see that. Brian, you got something to add there?
Yeah, I love the point about the discipline. It turns out that takes no talent wall, definitely had an impact. I would have to check the facts, and I'll correct it on Twitter, but I think we've had one pre-snap penalty on our offensive line all season. We're in game 7. We would average Laramie Tunsil alone, I think, would average 2, when Gase was here. It's just a very disciplined team, and they believe in the game plan. And I think a lot of that discipline and a lot of that comes down to, like when it was Gase, it was like the Ravens game on Thursday night and the Texans game on Thursday night. It was very obvious early that team wasn't prepared. So when you're not prepared and you're not being put in the right places, you start breaking down, and you start trying to do other people's jobs. And that's when those huge just mental breakdowns happen. And with him getting them prepared pre-game, I think is a huge story. The reason I had to raise my hand, though, is we can't move on and leave the talk about the defense without also touching on Kyle Van Noy. How many times has Patriot defenders that looked great in New England gone other places and just evaporated, right? And just been forgotten men. And, dude's been a gamer all season. I think that's his 3rd fumble recovery of the year, brought it down, to the 1-yard line, set up the Gaskin touchdown. He's been all over the place. He seems to be the leader on the field, and is definitely part of bringing that culture and that discipline. I think Kyle Van Noy definitely deserves a lot of credit.
I do want to give some shout outs to a lot of those guys on that defensive side. Van Ginkel turning the Jets on to get to the end zone. Could barely contain myself and stay in my chair watching that. And of course, you had Shaq Lawson picking up the other sack, and the defense was just all over Jared Goff all day. And you love to see it, of course, being in aqua and orange. Goodness, what a great game. But you know what, Hollywood, you alluded to something that I really liked, though, is that they did not put Tua in a position to fail. As a matter of fact, they put him in a position where he didn't have to be perfect in order to win the game. So, of course, we got to talk about Tua because he's definitely not perfect. And I'm sure everybody kind of had that collective, head scratch and like, well, maybe that could have been better. But you know what? He did okay. Let's not forget that he's a rookie. This is his first ever start. But I know with all the hype and he had the documentary come out and all this stuff, but we got to talk about this man because we haven't shut up about him since he got drafted, really. But the story was that he wasn't the story. He wasn't great. The game wasn't too big for him either, though. He made a mistake kind of early. It wasn't necessarily on him. Guy had that the strip sack fumble. And but he came back, he settled down. And as soon as he calmed down, everything started kind of falling into place. Answer with the touchdown pass to Parker. A couple of drives stalled due to dropped balls, but overall, he looked pretty good. Now, national storyline early was he wasn't going to be up to the task against that vaunted Rams D with people like Mina Kimes and Dan Orlovsky and Colin Cowherd questioning, putting him up against such a tough defensive front. And that didn't end up being the story here. So, Hollywood, what are your thoughts on Tua's play, and what do you think moving forward?
Well, my first thought is, those guys were almost right. It looked like they were probably pretty psyched when Tua fumbled on the opening drive. And but listen, like you said, I didn't know. I don't know that we saw enough from Tua to make any real assessment of his play at this level. I think he kind of just managed the game, and the play calling was obviously very basic and very vanilla. And they just didn't have to do much. They didn't score in the second half. They just didn't have to do much in this game. I thought the run game was not very good. They're going to have to improve there. The receivers who we talked about going into this game needed to step up. There wasn't much from those guys in this game either. That Gesicki had a ball early, I think it was in the first half, where he went up and had the ball in his hands, had it knocked away. Those are the kind of catches these guys are going to have to make so Tua can, I think, get into some sort of rhythm and develop some sort of confidence. But there were two main things I was looking forward to in this game. The first, obviously, was, can he take a hit? He hasn't taken one in a while. He took a good one on that fumble, and he took a few in this game. And, he got up. He was just fine and didn't seem to be bothered by it at all. And then the other thing I kind of wanted to see was just his body language and his demeanor and, how he is with his guys, how he acts at this level. And I liked what I saw from him, guys. He seems like a leader. He doesn't seem, when things are not going well, it didn't seem like he, put his head down and was sulking. And when things went well, he kind of had a quick celebration, was on the sideline back with his teammates. I just like the kind of even keel demeanor that he had in this game. It felt like a very professional demeanor. But as far as his play, he wasn't good, obviously, but I don't want to get too wrapped up in it and knock the guy in this game, because it was just such a strange game. I don't think, again, anyone could have predicted this is how the game was going to go. I mean, if you would have asked me before, I would have probably thought the Rams were going to find a way to win this game, right? I mean, they've been playing well this season, and I thought the Dolphins, with a quarterback change, it was going to be tough for them, but defensively and special teams, they really stepped up. But as far as Tua goes, just think there was a couple of things that I was really watching for in this game, and he checked the boxes for me on those two.
I love that you pointed that out, because to me, it was really that fumble. I wanted to see, okay, now that that's happened, how is he going to come back? What's going to be the demeanor? How is he going to look at these guys, and what are they going to do? And he responded. And that's exactly what we wanted to see. And of course, just like you alluded to there, taking those hits, is he going to get back up? Is it going to be all right? I won't lie, I was holding my breath on a couple of those where it's kind of hard not to,
right? And he had a QB draw or a design run where he ran on the outside. He took a good shot as well. I was also watching when he was rolling out, throwing on the run as well, because again, that hip injury, and you just want to make sure everything is where it needs to be. I thought he looked, from a physical standpoint, 100%, right?
Absolutely. And that's what we were hoping for. Now, Brian, tell me, what were you looking at? Are we ready to clown on these folks on ESPN, or what are we thinking?
I've been doing it all day. I've been taking a lot of heat from Mike Golick Jr. and Mina Kimes on Twitter, but I'll take it. They were wrong, but they won't man up and take it. But anyway, we wanted Tua to come in and throw for 306 touchdowns and walk on water. It was what we built him up to do. But, I like Hollywood said, I was really psyched to see how he came back after the fumble. Some other quarterbacks we have drafted in the past or brought in last year to compete, they may have never recovered from that, and
Josh Rosen.
he just like let it go right off his back, and he came up the next drive ready to play and got the touchdown pass. And, his wide receivers needed to step up and make some plays for him, and that didn't happen. So I don't think he played bad overall. He was only sacked once by Aaron Donald. That's pretty good. I don't care if you're a rookie or you're a 10-year vet. I think Nick Foles would have loved to only been sacked once by Aaron Donald, right? And he's been doing it for a long time. So, but his receivers, Preston Williams dropped 2 balls that would have been first downs. Myles Gaskin had that big drop that on third down. They didn't really give him a chance to get going, as you alluded to. The Mike Gesicki, I don't know if you consider that a drop. It would have been a great catch if he made it, but they were making those catches for Fitzpatrick. So, a couple of those plays go the other way. We see a little bit more of them. We definitely can't anoint him, Dan Marino, yet, but we're also not sitting here really depressed, like, oh no, what'd we do? Like after that fumble, it could have gone off. It could have gotten bad. If we lose 35-0 and Aaron Donald's in the backfield all day, we're all sitting here like, I don't even know if I would have showed up, honestly, for the podcast. So,
boy, it felt like it was heading in that direction, though, didn't it? So it really did early on.
But that wasn't the story. The game wasn't too big for him. And, it reminds me a lot of what Jared Goff looked like in his first game. He's just getting his feet wet. The defense played well. And, next week's going to be against a different opponent, which is not the vaunted defense. We'll probably see a bit more of a shootout next week against the Cardinals and see a little bit more of them. But encouraged, I think, is the word. I'm not elated. I'm not depressed.
That's exactly the key. And that's, the really the best we can hope for outside of having that game. I know I joked around about it if he didn't throw for 300 yards and 6 touchdowns. Oh, he's a bust and we need to move on. No. He did just good enough. Let's see what he comes out with next week. But of course, touching on those receivers, I love that he spread the ball around a whole lot. He targeted Preston Williams 5 times, only materialized into 2 catches for 15 yards, but still not too bad. Jakeem Grant, of course, caught one for 15 yards. Malcolm Perry caught one the one for 10 yards I thought was really nice. But Jakeem Grant, you kind of owe him an apology, don't you, Brian? You were a little hard on him.
I've been rough on Jakeem Grant, not only as a wide receiver, but mainly as a punt returner. And he changed the landscape of this game with 2 of his punts. We were about to be stuck way back behind the 20, and he brought one to the 50-yard line. That would have, and that was right after the fumble. He changed the field position for us, and then he had the punt return for a touchdown that completely changed the entire. I mean, you could see the air just be sucked out of the Rams defense. So I've been hard on Grant being a liability in punt return. He's fumbled a couple times, but he had the biggest catch of the day of any of the wide receivers, and he turned the game around with that punt return. So Jakeem Grant, I've been saying it all along. I want to root for you more than anybody. You're a great dude, but I am sorry. I am eating crow. You definitely were not as happy right now, I think, if it wasn't for your performance today. So hats off to Jakeem Grant.
Without a doubt. Hollywood, you got to give me your 2 cents on that. What are we thinking about Jakeem Grant and his performance?
Oh, man. Yeah, he's certainly had his ups and downs, so I could see where Brian's coming from on that. But listen, those plays were game changers, and when you have that ability to change the game on special teams, it's it can be the difference. And I think, like you mentioned, that the other punt return, not the one that wasn't a touchdown, also certainly helped them with field position as well. So yeah, and Jakeem Grant has all the talent in the world, right? We know he has all the speed. He can make these plays, and it's just a question of not making the plays that cost your team the game, and shooting yourself in the foot and having those fumble plays and stuff like that. And if this team can continue to play clean football, I don't know how good Tua is going to be or get this season. I can't answer that, obviously. I don't think any of us can after the limited amount we've seen. But if the team can continue to play this Brian Flores brand of football and play mistake-free ball, I don't see why they can't be competitive the rest of the way.
I like that a lot. Go ahead, Brian.
So I just have to touch on that, what he just talked about. We got to look at the upcoming schedule, right? We're 4-3. Mm-hmm. We're only 2 games back behind the Bills. We're right there with the wild card. There's 7 wild card spots. And, they mentioned in the broadcast, our next games are at Arizona, home for Los Angeles Chargers, at Denver, at New York, versus Cincinnati at home. So that sets us up for 5 games in a row where I would say probably 4 of those 5 games we're going to be favored to win, which is crazy. But
I'm sorry, just like that sentence alone, we're favored to win 4 out of 5 games. What?
And being on a 3-game winning streak, I mean, we could go in that last month of the season is tough. We got Kansas City, New England, not as scary as once was, at Las Vegas, not as scary as some might have thought preseason. Then last game at Buffalo. But I mean, we could be in the driver's seat heading into December. If we kick this 3-game winning streak into like a 7 or 8 game winning streak as we did in 2016, that Kansas City game might not be that important.
And we absolutely have the team to be able to do it. And that was kind of my takeaway from the game is, despite Tua's performance, Tua did okay, but imagine now there's still upside here, and the team around him is good enough that he doesn't have to play hero ball in order for us to win games. But I do want to touch on Jakeem Grant because I've long been a fan of his since we drafted him, and I've long been waiting for him to kind of have that breakout, and he's still not technically there yet, but it is nice to see that he's still producing the way that he is. And oh man, I gotta say, because I was out to brunch with my mother-in-law, brand new Miami Dolphins fan and fan of the show. And I about knocked my mimosa over and fell out of my seat when that happened because, oh my God, he caught it. He's going to take that. He's going home. He's going home. So that was exciting. It's just nice to get those kind of moments again. It feels like it's been too long, far too long. So but I guess it's not all about one position group on that team. It was a total team victory from the coaching staff, the defense, the special teams. But before we move on to what could be improved upon, we got to pause for 30 seconds, pay some bills real quick. As I mentioned when we first opened up, this episode brought to you, of course, in part by Manscaped. I myself am a Manscaped user. I have the Lawnmower 3.0. It's provided by them. That thing is fantastic. Has an LED light so you can cut in any kind of lighting. It's waterproof so you can use it in the shower. Soft ceramic blades to keep you from nicking anywhere, up here, down there, wherever. Of course, they tell you not to use your ball trimmer on your face, but hey, it's a free country. Do what you want to do. But Brian, why don't you tell these people about the Weed Whacker, please?
Dude, I got the Weed Whacker last week and my nose couldn't be more happy. Nose hair has been a problem for quite some time, and it's no longer a problem thanks to Manscaped. Definitely, check them out. Also, I have to say the ball deodorant is amazing. I'm a bigger guy. I sweat a lot. That's no longer a problem either since Manscaped came into my life. So go to manscaped.com, use code FINSUP, get 20% off your purchase and free shipping. I also have to touch on Patch Vibes. Go to patchvibes.com. They have these rad, the Shula 347, I believe it is. How many wins did he have? 347, is that right?
I believe it's 347.
Yeah. So the patches that the team's wearing on their jerseys this year, they're selling those patches. They have some great T-shirts. Go to patchvibes.com. Again, use the code FINSUP. You save 20% on your purchase. They're not paying us any money. We just really like what they're up to down there in Florida. So we want to give a shout out to them.
I am, of course, hoping that they will give me a personal patch of my logo. That would be fantastic. And I'd put that on everything. Just saying, hey, Patch Vibes, right here. I'll send you that artwork. Let's get it going. But of course, now we move on to the negatives. Because, of course, it was a good win. It was a great team win. I loved watching the whole thing. But, of course, we got to point out the things that didn't quite go right. And namely, that running game. And I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Hollywood, because I know you had a little bit to say about it. What did you see out of that running game? Or better yet, what did you not see? And what are we hoping that develops later on?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see the offensive line knocking guys and getting any holes for them to run through. I mean, 55 total yards rushing is just not enough. And you could group the entire offense into this, right? I just think, from the offensive line, I don't think they gave Tua enough time back there. I don't think they opened up enough holes to run the football. And just quite frankly, the offense has to do more because they are not. Brian, you just went through that schedule. The Dolphins are not going to go on an 7-8 game winning streak if the offense plays like they did today. That's just the reality of this whole thing, right? I mean, you had some fortunate plays, between special teams and the defense, but that's not going to happen for you week in and week out. It's just not something that you want to be, comfortable relying on. Your offense is going to have to score points, and they were significantly outgained by the Rams in this game today. Devontae Parker, what a basic no-show. Gesicki, a basic no-show in this game. These guys are going to have to show up and are going to have to make plays. And again, I think it was Brian who mentioned it earlier. You had Myles Gaskin had the drop on third down. These guys have to make these plays for Tua. They just have to, because you keep drives going. You start to build this kid's confidence a little bit. You're going to have to make these plays if you're the offense. So listen, there's a lot of room for them to improve going into next week. But if we want to start talking about things like 7 or 8 game winning streaks, the reality is they're going to have to play significantly better on the offensive side of the football, because you just can't rely on your defense and special teams to, I don't want to say bail you out like they did today, because you got ahead so quickly in this game where you didn't need the offense, right? And, hopefully, next week, I think you get a situation where maybe the game's a little closer and you can see Tua kind of operate in a normal offense and see really a little bit more, what he has. But yeah, offense just flat out has to be better than they were today. They're going to have to make some plays if they want to keep this, these winning ways going.
Absolutely. And, as nice as it was to finally see Tua do that touchdown celebration of his, with the, all that, it was awesome. But we got to get more out of this run game. Brian, what are your thoughts? I know we had a little bit going on there. Gaskin wasn't really finishing runs out there. We can't pick up 3 and short. What can we do to inject some life into this running game?
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I think the answer went to Kansas City, right? Le'Veon Bell. It would have been nice to bring him in. It's a shame that we went out and spent all that money on Howard and went and got Burita, and they're just basically non-existent. I mean, Howard was a healthy scratch for the 3rd week in a row. I think we're going to have to. You saw Gaskin was limping at the end of the game. He's just not finishing runs. He left, a couple of those times. I don't think the O-line played that bad. He wasn't getting hit in the backfield. He was getting a yard or two before he was getting hit. He just wasn't making anyone miss. And when he did break free a couple times, he had half yard to go and he just goes down. He just not finishing runs. So I think we got to start looking more at Burita. We got to start bringing in Howard. The other part of it too is they're just not punishing. Gaskin's not punishing anybody. He's not making anybody, scared to tackle him. But I know, Howard's got to earn that playing time, but we have to change something, and the Wildcat's not it, especially against, you're not fooling Aaron Donald, part of it today was definitely who we were going up against, but, and the predictability of being up so much, they knew we were going to run the ball, but we need to see more from Burita. We need to see somebody else step up. If it's Howard or we bring somebody else in, the Bengals, I think, just went out and grabbed Alex Collins. He was sitting out there. Something needs to be done to inject some life into that running game.
So I do feel for Myles Gaskin, as tough as he is, and I see how much effort he's putting in, he's just kind of a little guy. He's a little smaller than I am, and I'm a scrawny little dude. So it's as much as credit as I want to give him, it's just not necessarily working. Maybe the offensive line isn't quite, I don't know. I don't know exactly who to put that one on, but
well, I just want to throw this at you guys. I just think it, and I've been saying this on the show for a while. The Dolphins in this upcoming draft, and I know it's early to start talking about the draft, but they need to target that running back position in the first round because, listen, Myles Gaskin's a nice player. There's no question about it, right? I mean, and I think we all like him, but he's not Dalvin Cook or Zeke Elliott or one of these guys that's a game changer at that position, a guy that you can just kind of, hand the ball to and feel comfortable that he's going to be able to, control a game. So I think that, the answer's not there. Is, you guys are like, Breed, could it be Breed? It could be, someone else. The answer's not there. You mentioned Le'Veon Bell. He probably would have been a decent fit, I think, down here, but the Dolphins have to target a big play running back, I think, very early in the first round of the next draft. I mean, I obviously like ETN from Clemson, if that's, the direction they want to go. But I just don't think the running game with the current cast that they have is capable of taking over a game, especially against a good defense like, the Rams today.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. But, of course, it wasn't all on the run game. We did get a couple drops and stuff. There were some letdowns in the passing game. Our receivers, as you had alluded to earlier, actually, it was a perfect segue. Gesicki and Parker were both kind of shrinking out there. But is it them or is it possibly a Chan Gailey issue? The last 3 games for Parker, 6 catches, 88 yards, 2 touchdowns. Gesicki had 1 catch in 2 games. I mean, is this more because we got to big leads early and started playing conservatively, or is there something that we should be worried about here? Brian?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's going to be the $1 billion question. I think a lot's got to go on Chan Gailey because, Gesicki had the 1 catch for 8 yards, but he only got two looks the entire game. Parker, I think the only time he was targeted the entire game was the touchdown. You can't have a star. I mean, he was 4th in receiving yards last year, 4th in touchdowns last year. You can't not give this guy the ball. You have to pencil him in for like 10 targets a game, like they do with, to some degree with like Cooper Kupp. We have to make it, they have to make it a priority to get the ball in the playmakers' hands. You can't be giving, bad touches to Malcolm Perry, unpredictable Wildcats, and as nice as Durham Smythe is when he catches the ball, he's not that guy, so and yeah, you have to use him as distractions occasionally, but you got to feed guys like Gesicki and Parker, and Preston Williams needs to step up. We've said it before. I don't know what it is. If the ball's out of play, he'll catch it, right? And somehow make an unbelievable play. If it hits him right between the numbers, he drops it. But these guys got to step up and make plays. I really wanted to see Burita get involved in the passing game. I think that's something that Gailey has to focus on, because I think it's a element of his game that we're just lacking. He's dynamic in that aspect of it. It's something that Tua utilizes well. So I'd like to see that more. Maybe give Grant a few more opportunities. He's made the most of them the past couple of weeks.
Absolutely. And I do want to point out, as we've been talking about for the last couple of days, Brian made sure to correct me. We do actually also have Antonio Callaway will be eligible to play next week. So we will be getting a little bit more speed, which might help. And, with some of these, we can get Tua running some of these plays that he's a little bit more familiar with, a little bit more comfortable with. It'll just be helpful. But Hollywood, tell me, what are your thoughts? Are we playing a little too conservatively on the offense?
Well, it's interesting, because what do Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki really have in common? They started playing well when Ryan Fitzpatrick started throwing them the ball. And, I think Brian Flores also gets a lot of credit, right? Because Devontae Parker, you talk about guys we were ready to give up on. Everyone was ready to give up on Devontae, and they brought him back and gave him another shot, and he ended up being one of the top guys in the NFL. I think he has all the talent in the world, and this is the thing. I don't know how long it's going to take for these guys to mesh with a new quarterback, to mesh with Tua. In the middle of the season, team was playing well, and they went ahead and made the change. So those guys, both of them played exceptionally well with Ryan Fitzpatrick slinging the ball over the place. Tua is going to be a little bit different right now. They're not going to let Tua stand back there and just sling the ball all over the field. I would think this early on in his career. But, I just think today, while, yes, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more from the offense, I just think they managed the game and did, just enough. And, the defense was solid enough today where you didn't have to put Tua in a crummy spot where, the one thing you didn't want to have happen today was a disaster pick six or something like that. And, have Tua coming back to the sideline and all distraught and all that. You just didn't have that today. It was a positive game. Everything in the game, I think, was relatively positive. So you take that away from this, that's good. You're moving forward. And, but again, they're going to have to do more, and those guys are going to have to step up. I thought Gesicki, we talked about it earlier, had a chance to make a tough catch. He had it knocked away. Those are catches they're going to have to make. You're going to have to help your guy out.
Absolutely. I agree. Now, I have expressed my concerns previously in the season about our offensive coordinator choice. I actually made a video about it on YouTube, so I won't dive into it too much here. But I had expressed those same concerns early on, even when Fitz was still playing, that maybe we were going a little conservative when we should have been opening it up a little bit. But, of course, only time will tell. We had a rookie quarterback in there, his first start ever. It would be expected that we kind of let off the gas a little bit, let him manage the game, let the rest of the team get the win, and that's exactly what happened. So I suppose we can't complain. Well, we can complain because we're Dolphins fans, but we shouldn't. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, it is a little hard to gauge. Something unbelievable has happened in Miami the past 3 weeks. We've had 20-point leads in each of the last 3 games. So when you're up by 20, you're not going out there and showing everything and putting your quarterback in harm's way and making him throw the ball. And yes, but it's when you're winning by that much, it's a lot harder to run the ball because everybody knows what's coming. So give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, he had the offense playing well enough the last 2 weeks to get those big leads early. The offense didn't even have a chance to get us up early this week. The defense and special teams took care of that so quickly for us. So it's weird game scripts when you're up by 20 points. It's not what you're used to seeing, and stats do go down when you're up by 20 points. And what a nice problem to have, right? Like, I don't know about you guys. I'm old, and I do remember Dan Marino getting us up by 20 points in a few games, but man, it's a distant memory. I don't remember going into halftime 28-7. So it's a nice thing to look at.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as Dolphins fans, we can certainly appreciate how tough it is to close out a game, how tough it is to win a game, right? I mean, you guys know that, and especially this season. Look at every different week. You know, some teams are, play really well one week and they stink the next. We're seeing it, I think, every single week, and the division's wide open. The Dolphins have been consistent. And that's a pretty positive thing. And you just know how tough it is to close out games, how tough it is to actually be in the win column. So I'm not one, especially at the NFL level, to really complain too much in a win. Just take care of who's ever in front of you. And if the Dolphins can keep playing the way that they did today on the defensive end, on special teams, and start stepping things up on offense, it'll be a tough team to beat, I think.
I agree, and I like that kind of mentality, though. Just look at the team that's ahead of you. Actually, it reminds me of UCF's head coach Josh Heupel's approach. We're just trying to get to 1-0 every week. That's the way we should be approaching it, and looks like that's what's happening here. But I suppose that'll move us into any closing thoughts.
I just have to say real quick, I think Josh Heupel's also former Miami Dolphin great Josh Heupel. I think he was drafted in the 6th round way back in like 99 or 2000.
He's a lefty, by the way. Left-handed quarterback. Yes, you're absolutely right. And the quarterback that he has down there in UCF right now is a left-handed Hawaiian quarterback. If you could do such a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched on my closing thoughts. I'm not going to get too down on a win. I'm excited for Tua. I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm glad it didn't end before we got going. I'm really thankful that Hollywood jumped on the show. My favorite part of the morning every day, like I live in New York, but you can listen to the Joe Rose show wherever you are in the world by the radio.com app. And the best part of my morning is Hollywood and Joe Rose going back and forth and Hollywood just giving them the business. It's just hilarious. If you're not waking up and listening to this show, you're doing life wrong. Definitely check it out. But yeah, that's my closing thoughts. I think let's go on to Arizona and I can't wait to see Kyler Murray versus Tua next week. That's going to be quite a fun game to watch.
I'm pretty excited about that.
Going into this game.
By the way, interesting fun fact, with this win, Tua became the first rookie quarterback to defeat the Rams since Russell Wilson in Week 17 of 2012. But Hollywood, your closing thoughts.
Well, guys, first of all, thank you for having me. You guys do an awesome job, and I really appreciate getting on here with you. And it's just fun to talk ball with you today. I've grown up in South Florida, spent my entire life down here, and I can't remember a time I've been more excited about the direction of the Dolphins in, 20 years? It's exciting right now, right? You have a talented question mark, a guy at quarterback who we think is going to be really good, and, we get to see that development the rest of the season. I think we found our coach in Brian Flores. He seems to have this thing heading in the right direction. The defense is making plays all over the place. They're loaded up with draft picks in this upcoming draft. I think that the Dolphins are finally, guys, heading in a direction where as fans we can feel really optimistic for once in a very long time, right? I mean, there's been, whether it's the wrong coach or it's the wrong quarterback or whatever it is, right? It's been a long list of issues and frustration, and it feels like the Dolphins are getting ready to break through and finally become that team that, and I think it's baby steps, right? It's, let's get into the playoffs. Let's be a team that competes for the playoffs, maybe get to a wild card team. Then you start to look at the division. The Patriots run might be over, guys. They lost again today. The Bills seem to be the team to beat in the division, but I think they're beatable as well. The division seems open. So I think you make these baby steps, guys, and in a couple of years from now, when this team gets all those draft picks settled in and you start to bring in a few more free agents here and there and you shore up these different positions, it just feels for the first time in a long time that the team's heading in the right direction, and they're starting to turn the corner, it feels like, a little bit.
It does feel that way. It's nice to see, especially, I'm kind of a younger guy. I've always been the youngin' on here, and basically my entire tenure as a Dolphins fan, we have kind of been mediocre. And so it is nice to finally be seeing some signs of hope. We see the light at the end of the tunnel and it's getting closer. And wow, the feeling is indescribable. And it's also just kind of neat, Tua, of course, first left-handed quarterback to start a game since Kellen Moore did back in 2015. And that drought, the 4-season drought there, was the longest in the Super Bowl era. So kind of rad that he came out, did that, and got a win. Go ahead, Brian.
One more interesting stat. They touched on it on the broadcast. The first win ever by Dan Marino was against the Los Angeles Rams. And Tua's first win was against the Los Angeles Rams. So
that's pretty interesting.
Draw those lines and just bring them to Canton right now.
Do with that what you will. But I do want to take this opportunity just because we brought him up. The Dolphin great Josh Heupel, that left-handed quarterback that he's got right now, Dylan Gabriel, currently leads the nation in passing yards and is getting absolutely no love. So I want to give him some love because he is playing lights out. But that's all.
I'll have to start a UCF podcast.
I will.
Now, here's the problem, though, guys. I went to USF, so I can't get on board with your UCF love. So.
Oh, I am so sorry.
Yeah, although we might be the worst college football team in the country right now, but
you'll claim national championship, though.
Yeah.
Let me just say, UCF is looking forward to that matchup later this season.
Everyone's looking forward to playing USF this year.
But hey, Hollywood, I want to thank you again. If you have anything else that you're working on currently, please let us know.
Guys, just the Joe Rose Show, 6 to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, radio.com. We'll be talking to it tomorrow morning. But you guys do an awesome job. Thank you. Really, thank you for having me on. It was an absolute pleasure. And anytime you guys want to talk ball again, you let me know, okay?
Hell yes, sir. It's our honor. So if you don't mind, I will go ahead and take us out. So everybody, make sure you subscribe to the Fin Addicts Miami Dolphins podcast, available where all podcasts are available: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. There's a few more out there. I can never remember them. Brian knows. Ask him if you really want to know. We do what we do for all of you, so get on there, leave us a nice review. Now remember to follow us, the Fin Addicts Network, on YouTube, youtube.com/Fin Addicts Network, and of course, follow us on Twitter at Fin_Addicts. But the best for last, our website is up, FinAddictsNetwork.com. Oh my goodness, it is awesome. We are getting the updates. All of the new episodes from each of our shows is getting fed on there daily or whenever they get released. Ryan, please tell these people.
Yeah, not only is it the Fin Addicts podcast, but we actually have the Dudley Durong show is on there, and the very funny Welcome to Perfectville guys. Their show's up on there. We also have just added a couple of writers, Dylan Ashcroft being one of them. So we have articles coming out. We have the press credentials, so we give you guys up to date on the injuries, on the who's active, who's not active, on who's getting called up. So check out FinAddictsNetwork.com. It's a fun place to be.
It's a great place to be, and the only place to be for Dolphin fans like yourselves, like ourselves. But for all of us here at the Fin Addicts Network, Hollywood, thank you for joining us. Well, let's go out the way we generally like to. Fins up,
Fins up,
gentlemen.
baby.